Before we get into actually solving trigonometry problems, what we need to do is be able to label the diagrams. So I've got 6 triangles here. In 4 cases we're trying to find x, and in 2 cases we're looking for 2 sides, A and B, or AB. With each triangle, the very first thing you want to do is identify where the right angle is. So there's the right angle, and the side that's opposite the right angle is always the hypotenuse. There's the right angle, hypotenuse, there's the right angle, hypotenuse, and so on, right angle, hypotenuse. So let's do the first one. So there's the right angle, that is the hypotenuse, so we label that H. Next thing you want to do is identify the angle that you've got, or the angle you're looking for. So in this case here, what we've got is we've got this angle here. Okay, what we do then is we look opposite that angle. The best way of doing that is imagining that that is your eye. Okay, so now the opposite side to that angle, where you would look opposite, is the opposite side, so we label that O for opposite. The side that we haven't labelled is the adjacent side. That's the adjacent to the angle we're looking for, the angle we've got. Adjacent just means next to. Okay, we do the same here. So there's the right angle, and the side opposite the right angle is the hypotenuse. That is the angle that we're looking for, or we have. The side opposite that is known as the opposite, and the one we haven't labelled is the adjacent. Exactly the same each time. There's the right angle, the side opposite is the hypotenuse. That's the angle we've got, or we're looking for. Side opposite that is the opposite, and the last side that we haven't labelled is the adjacent. It's exactly the same every single time. So there is the right angle, the side opposite that is the hypotenuse. There is the angle that we've either got or we're looking for. The side opposite that is our opposite, and the one we haven't labelled is our adjacent. Then these last 2 questions we're asked to calculate side AB. So there is side AB, and there is side AB. So it's exactly the same. We label the hypotenuse first, opposite the right angle. There is the angle, that's the opposite side, and the one that's left is the adjacent. There's the right angle, opposite the right angle is the hypotenuse. There's the angle, opposite the angle is O, and the one that's left is the adjacent. So labelling them is the first thing to do. Now we need to identify the sides we're actually going to use. So for the first question, we've been given the opposite dimension and we want to find the hypotenuse. Therefore, we don't actually need to incorporate the adjacent side. So we'll only use O and H for that question. If we look at the next question, we have got the adjacent, we want the opposite, so therefore we are not going to use and don't need the hypotenuse. So in this case, we only use O and A. For the third question, we've got the hypotenuse and we've got the adjacent. Therefore, we're looking for an angle because we've got 2 sides and we don't need the opposite. So in that case, we don't need that one. On the fourth question, we have got the opposite. We've got the adjacent, therefore we're looking for the angle, but we don't need to use the hypotenuse. Okay. For our next one, where we're calculating side AB, we've been given length BC. We've also been given the angle, and we're asked to find side AB. Well, that's this side here, so we're asked to find the opposite. Therefore, we don't actually need the hypotenuse. And finally, the last one, same again. We've been given the hypotenuse. We've been asked to calculate side AB, so that's the side we want. So we want the adjacent. We don't need and we don't use the opposite. Now, labelling the diagrams is probably the most important step, because if you label it incorrectly, you are definitely going to get your answers wrong. So please make sure you practice this skill before you move on to the second part of trigonometry.